We're live. We are
here.
live. This is really our first reaction because last night we didn't make any content. We didn't go live. We really barely talked. I think it was just one of those things for all Lions fans where however you needed to deal with what happened last night, you dealt with it. Obviously, I was at Ford Field. I'll take the blame for that.
I tried to get you out. I did.
I'll take the blame for that. Even though when I left, there was people still mad I left.
No, when you left, Jeff, the Detroit Lions scored a touchdown.
There's some truth to that.
I will throw this out there. I was at Ford Field as well. I got a message saying, get Jeff out of Ford Field. A lot of people were mad at me for screaming at Jeff in the middle of the fans. People were telling me to leave because I was being too obnoxious, but I was trying to do everything I could to get Jeff out of Ford Field. And that is a fact. There were people around that were like, what is this kid doing? And I'm screaming at Jeff, like, you got to get out of here. Like, let's go right now. Like, at the top of my lungs, let's go.
Like, Lucas, like, I'm sitting down in my seats. I see Booner come down the walkway, like the stairs. Everyone's watching the game. He goes, Jeff. And I look over. Everyone looks over at Booner. He goes, we need to go now. And
there's no way I would leave. I don't blame you for staying. There's no way I'm leaving that.
Take the blame then.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that was I've never been on top of the world and then everything just flip upside down. In really one half. Like that in the first
quarter.
Half,
1 quarter.
Yeah. Essentially
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Guys, the Detroit Lions were bullying the 49ers in the trenches.
The first half of that game, I was on top of the world. Everything in my head, I'm just thinking the next 2 weeks, a Super Bowl on the line. You have a matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm like, what is going on right now? The Detroit Lions have a 17-point lead to go to the Super Bowl. There's 30 minutes left to go in this football game, and we have a chance to go to a Super Bowl and do something historic. And it didn't even cross my mind one time that lead could have got blown. Like, I was almost like ready to be like, here we go. Like this is all us. And that third quarter, that was and I remember on Friday on the show, I told you guys, I said, it's going to be a one possession game. It's going to be a war. So when it did start to get closer and closer, I was like, I was standing up. I couldn't sit at the seat. I was up the whole game, up on the concourse, pacing around. And I kept looking at everyone going, we're in a war now. We're in a war. We knew this was going to be a war. And I thought they were just going to pull the war out. And they choked. They like that. My heart got ripped out and it got put back in, and then it got twisted and someone ripped it out, and then someone ate my heart and then put it back. Like, dude, it was like the worst. It was the worst hour of my life. And then after the game, when they lost, I'm upset, and I just have Jeff in my ear being like, it's all right, Booner, move on. Next game. Dude, this is the end of this. You kept telling me to move on, and I'm like, dude, can you please just give me 24 hours just be sad and mad and just like that was like as a fan, it was just
I did not say
I feel depressed.
I did not say Booner, move on. I said, Booner, this sucks. Like it sucks to lose, but at the end of the day, like, what are you gonna do to change? Like it's over. Like, all we can do now is look to what's to come. Like we can sit and be sad, but eventually you're like, all right, we got to get to the draft. Like, that's just how I operate.
Dude, like, but what are we doing? Like, this was Jeff last night, Lucas. What are we doing, like, right after the game, talking about, like, let's get to the next game? Like, dude, we just lost a 17-point lead to go to a Super Bowl. Like, you're acting like we're there every year. We haven't been there in 32 years, Jeffrey.
Exactly.
Like, what are we just going?
Exactly. So why are we?
No, they lost a 17-point lead.
Why are we now? And I'm not saying you. But we have not been there before. This is a team whose core pieces are second, third, and rookie players. And they went into the number one team, what was the consensus in the NFL, and they lost by 3 points. Now, you can say what you want. They blew a 17-point lead. There's multiple fingers you can point. But at the end of the day, that is why experience with the players and the coaching matters. And when you go up against a team who has been in the same situation the 3 past seasons and going back in the last 10 years, even more than that, That is what happens. So everybody that's like, oh my God, the Lions aren't going to be back here. What is going on? Stop. Pull the emotion away. Pull the emotion away and look what actually happened. The weaknesses of the Lions got exposed. Secondary with pass coverage and missing tackles. That's been a problem all year. Exposed. You can go back to the third quarter like Booner said. Third quarter, exposed. Aaron Glenn, he decided to go out of what they were doing all night. Greg Olsen was talking about it. They were just going off of the personnel in that third quarter, and that's what got them killed. You can go and say what you want about Dan Campbell in the second half not going for the field goal. Have you seen what the San Francisco 49ers were doing that second half offensively? Brock Purdy was getting loose. The 49ers offense was not being stopped. So that is why you send the fucking kill shot. If you want to put those teams out, that's how you do it. The looks were there, but there was players that dropped the ball and that were not there for Dan Campbell, in my opinion, to show up, and they all know that. They all know that. This team is going to be a fire under the Lions' ass until they bring home that Lombardi trophy, which is going to happen. And if you don't think so, talk to Brad Holmes. Please talk to Brad Holmes right now and say what he think. Just talk to him and let him know what he's thinking, because he's about to cook. That Lions secondary, he knows it's a weakness. He tried to address that. He knew that it was going to be a weakness. That's why he got Emmanuel Mosley. Sorry, got hurt on literally the first snap he was back, and he was a former San Francisco 49er. So if they have him back, he's in that game, and he has an impact. The Lions, there's plenty of things to blame, but to just jump off the bandwagon and be like, we're never going to be here again.
All right, well, real quick, Lucas, I don't think there's people like I think this is a lot. Okay, this is an emotional day, guys. Lucas, what you have to understand is there's going to be people who are very emotional. They're going to go at players, they're going to go at coaches, they're going to go at coordinators, they're going to go at the team, and they're going to say we might not get back. That's emotional. Just how you're emotional saying we are going to get back there, and people. So I get it, but first of all, the tie. I see a lot of comments about your tie.
I'm CJ Gardner.
You might have to.
I'm CJ Gardner Johnson.
You might have to report. You might have to take the tie off, unbutton one button, and go forward with the show because, like I told you before, that tie is bigger than your neck, or we have to get a smaller
tie.
I don't even know what that is. Like,
okay. But you know what? Real quick, Booner, and this is where me and you had this discussion before, right? And I brought up and this is way before this playoff run. And when we were talking about the Booner path, I said to you that the NFL isn't a year-to-year league always, right? Injuries you have to take into account, a lot of things that go into it, right? Like that's why there's a lot of teams that have made the Super Bowl or made playoff runs that just quite never got back. Like the Bills, most recent example, they made the AFC title game and they haven't sniffed one since. So, and they have Josh Allen, but there's other things that go into it, right? Like you mentioned Brad Holmes, and that's a great point. No one's going to question Brad Holmes. Like he's building a damn good roster that I think for longevity purposes you have confidence in. Why this sucks is because it was right there. Like it was right there. The path, the Booner path this year, you had the Rams, the Bucks, a 49ers team, which you were in control for, 2 quarters. Dominant. It wasn't just control. It was a dominant performance from the Lions. And then you look forward and you think the Chiefs just made the Super Bowl. It's a team that you've beaten already, of course, without Kelsey and Chris Jones, but you like their chances there in Vegas. So when you look at other teams, and yes, we can say, well, we'll be back next year. We'll be in this conversation for years to come, which I do think they'll be in the conversation. But to simply say they'll be back in the NFC title game, like that's hopeful because that's not taking into account other teams. Getting better as well.
Okay, but Jeff,
into account injuries. So it does suck because of that reason. It sucks.
Let's take this into account then, because I've seen a lot of this on Twitter as well. People say, "Oh, the Bears are going to be better. The Packers." Okay, right. Let's talk about that real quick. Well, guess what, Jeff? The Lions already have a way better football team, and guess what? Guess what the Lions have that the Bears and the Packers have? They have a draft as well, and guess what else they have? They have they have money to go spend in free agency as well. They're going to be able to go do exactly what the Bears have done, except they are already on that level. If you're going to look me dead in the eyes, and anyone in this chat here, and yes, I see the Booner path in here, Spenmo, like the Booner path, I've said this from the jump. Said it from the jump that the Booner path is a 3, 4, 5 year thing to where this team's going to win this organization. If you guys want to start to go back to where we were year one and when they were 4-19-1, and all of you people who were going at people, not even looking at the structure of the organization and seeing how things were going up and wanted to just start getting guys out and not look at the long term. We're looking at the long term right now. And that's where I'm with Lucas is you basically are going to have the same exact football team back. There are going to be a couple small pieces moved around, but every single core piece, you're still going to have one of the best running back duels in the NFL. They're only going to get better. You have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's only going to get better. You have Jared Goff, who has been elite this year. You have one of the best offensive lines, are only going to get better. And you're only going to get that defense better through the drafted free agency. It only gets better. Yes, I'm not saying it's a guarantee you get back to the NFC Championship game. That's why when you go look at the odds in the sports books, it's plus 1,700, it's plus 1,500, plus 900, because it's hard to do that. But that doesn't mean this football team isn't going to do that the next few years. I think they have proven enough in the last 2 seasons that they could take what they have and go win football games and put themselves in a position to go do that. And that's where the Booner path and all of that kind of lies is, hey, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC next year and in the NFL next year, because they're only going to get better through the draft and free agency. And that's a fact. Dan Campbell's one of the best. He's one of the best coaches in football. You have one of the best GMs in football, and you have one of the best rosters in football right now. Just because you lost a football game doesn't mean you can't get back there last year. All of you people right now that are just listening to Dan Campbell's comments, oh, it's hard to get back. Yeah, like I get the comments he made. Don't use let's be realistic here, because I'm sure all of you people who are going to sit here and say that next year it's good, they're not going to get back there next year. I bet you last year at 1-6, all of you people were saying fire Dan Campbell. So sit down and let's keep this train moving. This is a different organization. This isn't Quinn Trisha. This isn't any of that BS. Well, so everyone needs to move on from that. This is a football team that just lost a tough game in the NFC Championship game and was a win away from going to a Super Bowl. Let's not act like this is a bad organization anymore. That's where I'm at with it. That's what pisses me off with all of this. It's that there's people that are going to look me in the eyes and say, let's just be negative for the next 6 months. No, this is an organization that's turned it around. Jeff,
I'm not saying
doing, and I see Adam in there laughing. No, Adam, you were one of the ones that were saying Dan Campbell should be fired.
Let Jeff go ahead. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, this is where I'm coming from with this, because Booner and Lucas, you guys are right. This organization is set up for longevity. Like, they have a ton of young players. They made the 49ers, mostly veteran roster. They got guys that are ready to win right now. That's how they're constructed. Obviously with Brock Purdy on a rookie deal, but still to win now. The Lions, regardless of what you want to bring up for the future, yeah, it's bright. I get that. But they blew an opportunity.
That is a fact.
They blew an opportunity.
That is a fact.
And by the way, we'll get to the they, because we'll talk about who we think is more to blame and all that in a little bit here. But that's it. That's all. Like, they blew a wide open opportunity to make the Super Bowl and to be in a Super Bowl where I think it would have been damn near a pick 'em. Regardless, you face the Chiefs. Like, I think especially if the Lions beat the 49ers like that, people would be like, man, Lions, they can win a Super Bowl this year. So yeah, it's frustrating. Like, they were a half away from making history as a franchise, and that's frustrating. Like, the future's bright. I get all that. Like, kumbaya, it's cool, but right now that they blew that. They blew that opportunity. It's terrible.
I don't think it was like, and there are people in here like, it was one of the worst collapses. Jeff, what did I tell you this morning? I said I woke up this morning, and the first thing I thought was, like, looking back at that Falcons, that 28-3 thing, like a 25-point lead, they blew that, and I'm like, dude, we were literally a half away with a 17-point lead with the chance to go to the Super Bowl, and you collapse. That is a fact. The only thing I don't like to see is people really going at this organization, and Dan Campbell and these players, and being like, oh man, like, they may never get back here again. Like, just like Dan said, like, do I think that's true? No. Like, we will be back here. This, like, do you think the San Francisco 49ers in their very first time that they lost here a couple years ago with Kyle Shanahan, that they were like, oh man, we may never be back here again, man, this sucks? No, they're all like, hey, we're going to be here next year. Just like last year when they lost and didn't have a quarterback, they're like, we're going to be back here next year. We're going to go to a Super Bowl. That's the confidence. That's where the Booner path came in earlier, changing the mindset of all of the loser fan base for 20 years that we all got instilled into us growing up. Like, change that mindset at one point. Quit making excuses.
No, I mean, that's what we were saying earlier. But to get back to Jeff's point, is they blew it. They absolutely did.
For sure.
It was in the matter of 3 plays, in my opinion. It was the one that will haunt me till the end of time is the Josh Reynolds drop on the 4th and 2, because Jared Goff avoided a pass rush. I believe it was Nick Bosa or Chase Young, one of the edge rushers, stepped up in the pocket. I thought he was about to get sacked. And then when I first saw, I was like, Jared didn't throw the best ball. No, Jared put it on the defender was on Josh Reynolds' back. He hit him right in the hand. And that was the player that I was talking about going into the game was going to be the most dependable. And Josh Reynolds was just a shadow of himself. He made one catch and it was a little too late. And if he makes that 3rd down catch, I believe it was the drive after the Jameer or before the Jameer fumble. they advance the change and they're at least just killing the clock. And so I think Josh Reynolds, I love him to death, especially for what he did for the team to get us here. But to not step up in moments like that when you've been doing it your whole career and letting the quarterback down that's been doing it with you your whole career, that was the biggest one. I mean, the Kendall Vildor off the face mask, that was one of the most embarrassing plays that I've ever. That was like a flashback from 2008. That is something you see in those plays.
Yeah.
Dude,
that was the play that really did it all, because that's what got the 49ers just going. That's when it was like, all right, we are meant to win this game. And it just sucks. The corners on the perimeter, just the weaknesses showed, and Kyle Shanahan found a way to take advantage of it. They completely neutralized George Kittle in that second half. He got his way going. They didn't let Brock Purdy run in the first half. He ran multiple times in the red zone to set up big plays.
Hey, Lucas, do you remember Friday when we did our show, 8 to 10? We had a conversation. I remember when I was driving home today, I remember you made a comment. We were talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown being reliable, catching balls, like he doesn't drop passes. And then we said Josh Reynolds, and I think
we were like, it's almost like when Josh Reynolds catches the ball, you're like, or drops the ball, you're like, what the hell just happened?
And he drops 2 in the biggest game of the year.
Well,
and the biggest moment.
They were dead on. That you could argue that crosser was just as big as that 4th down drop, because that was right after the 49ers got some momentum. The Lions could have answered, and then it was 3 and out. And it was on a 3rd and long that would have been a 15-yard and more, where Josh could have ran after the catch. That would and I love.
I mean,
Josh
there was
Reynolds,
just and remember when we talked about how, like, in these games, there's like little plays you have to make that makes a difference from winning these football games. And that is exactly what happened. Was the 49ers, when it came down to stretch, they made those little plays, and the Lions just did it, and that's what changed the game.
And it's just it's a buildup. It was the most uncharacteristic plays I've ever seen in this season in a game, and it happened in the biggest game in the second half, which when everything was on the line. That's the most frustrating thing. Like St. Brown dropping football, Josh Reynolds dropping footballs. You know what changed the game? And you guys already know this, but I'm just going to go through it just to remind people. It really is coming out of halftime. Like that, and we know how bad they've been in the third quarter, but I think you finally are facing a team like the 49ers where the room for the room for errors is small. The margin of error, you barely have any. And I want to go through what they did out of halftime, because you come out of halftime, right? The 49ers get the football. They kick a field goal. Okay, it's 24-10. You're still up 2 scores. That's when they got the football back, and it was a turnover on downs. And we talk about it. We talked about it before the season, or excuse me, before the game, and how turnovers count double. Like they mean twice as much. Turnover on downs. You give, okay, the 49ers get the football, touchdown. You get the ball back, 1 play fumble. 49ers get the ball, touchdown. Now it's tied game. You get the ball, you punt. Like, look at this is the Lions drive. This is the Lions drive coming out of halftime. Turnover on downs, fumble, punt, turnover on downs. And then, of course, they scored late in the game. Like that lost the game right there.
The momentum, man. Like as soon as that happens, the momentum changes.
You know what
have
hurts
to find
momentum?
A way to grasp it back.
Hold on. You know what hurts momentum? And yes, there's a lot of things you can point to, but personally, I'm stuck here because, and we'll just get into it now. Like Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, a lot of what he's done for this team since he's been here, he's helped them win games. Like I'm not going to deny that. Him being aggressive, right? It's helped them get to this point. Now, why we bring up feel for the game in some instances is you have the crowd out of it. The 49ers fans are out of the game. Once you coming out of halftime, like I just went through, right? Turnover on downs, they come out, they score. Turnover on downs, they score again. Now the momentum's shifting. Like you're getting the crowd, you're allowing them back in the football game. Brock Purdy's getting his confidence, and that's when the pendulum started swinging in the 49ers' favor. And once you gave that crowd life, and you gave that 49ers team life, like we talked about it all week about how Kyle Shanahan, when he doesn't have the lead, it's tough to play from behind. Like, no, he showed that even in the second half, being down 3 scores, like they persevered, and it was frustrating as much as we backed Dan Campbell, but man, he gave that team life. He gave that fan base life. And that's what came back to bite them in the ass, especially late in the game. You're down 10. I know he didn't take the field goal. And if you go back and look at the analytics, it was basically the same percentage. You take the field goal or you don't. They're pretty even. So it was really Dan's call. And he decided to go for it. And I get it. If they go for it and they make it, everyone's happy. But risking something like that, if you kick the field goal, Badgley made one against the Rams, a 50-plus yarder, then you're only down 7. So when you do get the ball back, we got to go down. We get to tie the game. You going for it, that was it. Like, he didn't get it. Game over. You're down 10 with 3 minutes left. It's over. Like, you have to get you have to convert some bogus shit to get the ball back, which they unfortunately couldn't do. So yes, that to me is when the real pendulum swung. You allowed that crowd back in the game, and it came back to bite him in the ass.
And I think too, like that first fourth down in the third quarter, that 4th and 2 with Josh Reynolds, you're at the 28-yard line. Like, we talked about it 2 weeks ago in the playoffs, like games that matter. You take the points because points are hard to come by in games like this. Obviously, it was a higher scoring game. So, like, obviously, like you felt like you could go score a touchdown, especially for what you did in the first half. So it was the first possession of the second half. So they were like, we feel like we can go score. But at that point, it's like you have full control of the football game. They're like, the only times you should be aggressive, in my opinion, and Dan usually is, it's like when you're like not fighting back, but it's a close game, or you're behind and you have to get an extra possession. Like, that's when you go. But when you have a what was it at the time? I don't even know. 14-point lead or 17, whatever it was at the time when they didn't get that first one.
The 14, because
you
they would have made it a 3-possession game again.
Yes, you take the field goal and you just keep that momentum. Like, because if you have more to lose going for it than you have to gain. Like, even if you get it, you still have to go score a touchdown and go down. You still might just end up with the field goal. But if you don't get it, you give a team that's down 14, you give them all of the momentum in the world. And that's exactly what you did. Instead of going and just kicking the field goal, keeping the momentum, you went out there, they got the 4th down stop when you could have just got points, and you just gave them every single piece of momentum that you had in the first half. And that was on you. And that's where I'm at. I think that first 4th down was the biggest one that changed the game, because you gave them the momentum. You literally just put it on a plate for them and said, here you go, a silver platter. And he said, here's the momentum. And that's all that happened. Whether he dropped it or not, I don't care. When you take those points and you go back up 3 possessions with less than a quarter and a half to go, that game is like you have the momentum. Like that, that changed everything. And then you fumble it the next time you get it, which was just very, very unrealistic, like uncharacteristic from the Lions too.
Yeah,
Joe Westfall, you can shut up, Joe.
I get
Joe.
where Dan was coming from, but it was the wrong call at the end of the day. If they get it, everybody's cheering. But the call that really blew my mind on top of that was running the ball on 3rd and goal with David Montgomery. That made me lose my mind in many ways, because now, especially when they just burn the timeout right after you, it's like, all right, that's game. Because I'm on it, like Michael Badgley's not kicking an onside kick. And it's just like that is where it really questioned, where it's just like they lost their identity in that second half. They truly did. Even to get down the field on that 4th and 2, they were running David Montgomery. David Montgomery was having his way that whole game. And then after Jameer had that fumble, they're like, all right, we're not running the ball anymore. Jameer I don't even think had 10 yards in the second half. David Montgomery definitely didn't have 20. That's just what happens in the third quarter. And that's when the Lions start losing their identity. They trying to get too cute. That's when stuff happens like that. So it's just frustrating. I don't know, man. I think there's definitely some blame to go on Ben Johnson as well, in my opinion. He's a great coordinator, but we've talked about it numerous times.
Said
like
it Friday.
Second halves, he turns into somebody else, and he almost tries to get too cute, and that was a factor in this game.
Yep.
Yeah, I won't argue that going away from running the football was just it was blasphemy. Like, they had 140, 150 yards, excuse me, at halftime. They ended the game with a 182. So what got them there? What got them the lead? They went away from. But the problem is there's so much. To me, there's a lot of blame to go around. Like, we bring up the Dan Campbell decision, but there's other things. Like, I think, again, if they convert those 4th downs, like especially the Josh Reynolds not coming down with that catch, like those are huge, huge plays. So I don't think there was one specific play that costed them. If I had to bring up the biggest play that I think meant the most, it would have to be them. They have to convert that 4th down at the end of the game. You're down 10. If you get that, like, if you're gonna go for it, okay, but you better fucking get that, because that's live or die right there. At least I would, and I can't believe I'm saying this, because you know how I feel about the kicker. Like,
and Adam just put in there, like, look at the kicker stats recently, like not bad stats, if we're being honest.
Here,
and at the end of the day. Yeah, and at the end of the day, there was a comment too that was saying, I think it was the guy that told me to shut up, Joe Westfall. He said something about, we don't give the ball back to that trash defense. Listen, when you had 4th and 2 at the 28 in the third quarter, guess what? Your defense only gave up 10 points at that point. And I'm not saying they were playing great, but they only gave up 10 points. They only started scoring when they got the stop on 4th down and the momentum shift and the crowd got into it and everything changed in that football game. So
even then, defensively in the third quarter, like the Lions defense just fell apart as well. Like
but guess what? If your defense was to fall apart,
that's a huge reason. Like if the Lions defense was playing like that through the whole game, I really don't think Dan goes for it in those moments. But this is where he lives and dies. He has complete. Hold on, Booner, let me finish.
No, they gave up 10 points to that first 4th down. They didn't give up 8 touchdowns. It was a 10. They had 10 points when they went for it on 4th and 2.
Lions defense wasn't
the
giving
momentum
up points.
changed in that offense, and the defense started playing like trash. When the
Booner,
momentum flipped.
you are 100% correct. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is Dan going for it on those 4th downs is because his defense was allowing 10 points. If that defense was getting shredded like they did in that second half, I don't think Dan goes for it then.
They weren't getting shredded until after he went for it.
I just said that. I literally just said that. What I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is this is where Dan he lives or dies because he has ultimate trust in his players offensively and defensively. The defense fell apart, especially with the momentum swing. When you have those corners out there, I don't think it's that smart to do in that situation. If they were to have a better corner play because they were missing tackles all night in the secondary and they were able to keep that offensive limited, I get where he's coming from. Try to keep that offense off the field. Our defense is playing well, but to Booner's point, you can't do that with that defensive personnel against that offense, in my opinion. I understand where he's coming from, but that is just not the team to do it against.
I think we're obviously everyone's frustrated. Like this is
I'm mad. I'm seeing Jonathan James Booner. I'm interrupting.
You're yelling at me when I'm making your point. You're yelling at me when I'm making your point.
Hey, it's a positivity. Kyle Bird became a YouTube member.
Shout out Kyle Bird. I'm not happy today.
Yeah, guys.
Joe Westfall, you don't know anything about ball, buddy. Don't know anything.
Booner, we literally just agreed, and you were yelling at me for me to try to get my point out. Just breathe.
I'm frustrated. Let me be frustrated.
For a second.
No, take that tie and let me be frustrated.
No, because when we get to CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'm
don't really care
seeing the
about
judge.
That
well,
stuff.
here, and we'll get to CJ. I just want to say this before we move on here, and I want to get to people kind of giving their opinions in the chat. I want to make sure their voices are heard too. But guys, where I'm at is this: like, you're on the road in an NFC Championship game. You take every opportunity. You take the points, and that's why I was happy he took the points early. I know it was 4th and 2.
When he did that, that's when I was like, oh my God. When he was at the 2 or 3 yard line and he kicked the 3, I was like, he's playing like this today. He would have. I was like, oh my God.
Because you're up, and just to go back, so we kind of know. Okay, so they kicked that field goal up. You go up 24-7 before halftime, and then you come out of halftime, right? And the 49ers kick a field goal. And then the game becomes 24-10. Like, if I'm the Lions, you get down in field goal range, you kick a field goal. Like you just keep three. Even if you just keep kicking field goals, you have to distance you're on the road. Like, and this is a team almost like a sleeping giant. Like, they had 7 points at halftime, and Dan even talked about it. They knew in the locker room this team's coming. Like, they're going to score in the second half. They're going to make this thing a game. So why not just take every opportunity you can to get points? Like, even if you, and again, it's Dan Campbell's like, and they call him Dan Gamble, right? And it's funny. And of course, no one wants him fired. He's the head coach. He's done a damn good job. But I want to say this. It feels like Dan walks into a casino. He puts his money down on blackjack, whatever the hell you play. He doubles it, right? And he puts all the winnings back on the same thing. Okay, wins, he doubles that. And then he doubles that. And then he doubles that. Instead of being like, you know what, I'm going to take majority of it and put it in my wallet and put a little bit on. He goes, we're going to go all in because it's what got me here, right? Like, this money is what got me here. And then he loses and goes, well. And then people would say, well, that aggressiveness got you there. Like, no, guys. Like, there has to be a point where you go.
Be smart.
You have to be like, at one point, and I'm not saying it, at one point, just be like, you know what? We're in an NFC Championship game. He knows how hard it is to get to especially to this game and this franchise to get to this game. It's been a long, long time. Just take the 3 at the end of the game. If you miss it, at least we can sit and be like, you know what, Dan, you need a new kicker.
Yeah, I go back to
at least he gives Badgley a chance. Like, Badgley is on the fucking sideline. He's like, oh, okay, we're going for it. Oh, they didn't get it. Like, you suck the momentum out of that fucking stadium. Like, that's what's frustrating. Is Dan Gamble, there's going to come a time, and it's going to happen if he keeps doing this for the rest of his career. It's going to keep happening. Like there will be times, especially in big games, where you get bit in the ass. And there's only a certain amount of times you can be like, well, we trust him. Eventually you're going to be like, you know what? Fuck this. Like we're losing big games because of it. Like that's why it's frustrating, dude. Like, yes, I understand his aggressiveness has helped him get here, but there has to be a point in time where you kind of peel back a little bit, dude. Just take the points.
Jeff,
like you don't got to go for it every single time.
What's something
that's
you
the
talk
point
about,
I'm trying to make.
that you talk about all the time? It's like knowing a feel for the game.
Yes.
And that was yesterday. The feel for the game was, hey, you have a 14-point lead and you have the ball at the 28. Kick the field goal. And then after that, you can go get a stop, or if they score a touchdown, and then you try and just keep that thing rolling. And then later in the game, you get another 4th down, take the field goal. That's 6 points. That's like a touchdown right there. Like it's situational football to where you have a feel for the football game. You weren't in any position whatsoever. No, not whatsoever. Just like how every one of us here in this chat, everyone that's listening, every one of us at halftime had that feeling in our bodies that we're like, we're about to go to a Super Bowl. We had no doubt that we were about to go to a Super Bowl. None of us could have said that we were about to choke that away because we've seen how this team was. And Dan should have had that same feeling, and he should have gone out there. And when he had a chance to take points, you know that you're not desperate right now. Just take the points and move on. You're not in a desperation situation to have to kick a field or to have to go for it on 4th down. You take the points. It's a feel for the game. Every game's different, but in the playoffs, especially when you have a 14, 17-point lead, that's when you're like, okay, let's get these points and let's just build on this lead. Let's build. Let's not chase for touchdowns.
Real quick, I want to let Lucas share his thoughts real quick, but I want to bring this up because this is a great point. You can't say be aggressive and then say, well, if they made it, that's like me putting my mortgage on black, and if I lose, I say, well, if I would have did it on red, I would have won.
Yeah,
you lost. Like you can't say that you lost. And by the way, I don't know how you guys feel, but when certain decisions are made, I'm at home or I'm at Ford Field in this case, already thinking like when the decision's made, it's not if he gets this, I'm on board. I'm saying I don't like it. Like I have an opinion before the plays, even that before if they convert it, I'll still be like they converted it, but I did not like that. Like I'm not the type to be like I like it because they got it, or if they don't, I'm like, well, I don't like it. Like that's not how that works.
Yep.
No, I mean, there's really nothing that I can say that you guys haven't already. I was sick to my stomach, especially watching them come out. When I thought they were just going to extend to a 17-point lead, like both of you guys said, I was sick to my stomach. I hated the call, but there's nothing that I can do about it. So I just try to find the logic in why he was actually doing it. And whether you like it or not, that's the logic in why he did it. I support Dan Campbell 100% just because he is, without a doubt, the best coach in Lions history. But that does not mean he does not have flaws. He has flaws. Hopefully this game will be a huge smack in the face, especially because when you get in these moments, you can realize more, especially in the regular season games, you realize why these decisions can have such backlash, and because they sting so much. It's almost just like this. These play calls are under a microscope now in crunch time with Dan Campbell, and he's felt the heat so many times. At some point, you hope that this is the moment where he's like, all right, I can be like this through the first half maybe, but in the second half, I have got to realize what is going on with the game and feel the flow of the game better. That you guys have.
It just keeps going back to you had a massive lead. Like if you could go from a 2 to 3 possession lead, dude, like how are you not doing that? I think I can't wrap my head around not going for a 3 possession lead. I cannot wrap my head
real
around
quick,
it.
Real quick. And I want to answer this. Coach Walk. Because this is what it's not just Coach. I've heard people say this as well. I don't think Campbell thought Raymond was going to, and by the way, he meant Reynolds, but dropped 2 passes and Gibbs was going to fumble. No, the Gibbs fumble, I'm not saying that's no one's fault, but the point I'm making is you can't assume that Reynolds is going to catch 100% of the footballs thrown at him either. Like the guy's human. Right. Like he's going to make mistakes. So I'm not saying he thought he dropped those footballs, but at the end of the day, like you're putting a lot of pressure on these guys. As often as he goes for it on 4th down, just like gambling, eventually something's got to give. Like you can't, especially in those big moments.
I don't even think it's that. I think I get it. I get like he wasn't planning on those guys to drop the ball. It's just like, hey, any football coach, if you have a 14-point lead and you have a chance to go take a 17-point, you just do it. And like it has nothing to do with the drop. Like yes, you can trust your players. You've trusted them all year, but that has like. I don't even know how to break that one down.
Because what are we saying?
He's relying on the game flow before then, and you just look at Shanahan's track record when he's down. He usually doesn't have an answer to come back. So that was Dan when everybody, and it was wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm telling you what in my opinion, Dan's thinking in that opinion. Everybody's like, you keep your foot on the gas, you put this team away. If 2 yards is what it takes to put this team away, I trust my playmakers. I trust my veteran wide receiver who has made this catch for me. To your point, Booner, not 100 out of 100, but 98 out of 100 times. If that's what puts this team away, because he knew, everyone in that building knew at some point the Niners, they're going to make a push to do it. So he's like, if this is what does it, I'm willing to take that risk. It wasn't the correct thing to do, but that's where he's coming from. So it's just like, I see what he's doing. He's not a complete madman for it. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't the right call. Because do you really trust Josh? Like, seriously, think about this. In the fourth quarter, when the Niners are getting momentum, they already did. They drove down the field, got a field goal, got a 3-and-out. Do you trust Josh Reynolds to make a catch and put the game away? Or do you trust Cam Sutton, Kendall Vildor, and company to stop the 49ers offense when they start rolling? That's what Dan was banking on. He trusts his offense
I just
to put
go
the
back
game away
to
more than on that defense.
You had more to lose.
It's not right, but that's what Dan's thinking.
No, and again, I get why he does it. Like he trusts his players, right? He's a player's coach. But even Dan because this has been a thing for Dan Campbell since, he got to Detroit. Like everyone always wondered, like, what would he be like in these type of situations? And for a while there, look at how ready the team was to play in the first half. They look great, but it's not always, listen, football's played in 4 quarters, guys. Like we've seen bigger comebacks. Remember the Vikings came back historically. I know it was the regular season, but this is the game. We've seen crazy things happen in this game. Like the Falcons in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. We've seen crazy things happen. So I'll just end it with this. When you're on the road and you're facing a team like that, when you got to be careful when you're giving up momentum like that. Like you got to be careful. Like that's all the point I'm making. Do I think the Lions' future is bright? Yeah, I do. Doesn't take anything away from my think of the future. I think Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, all that. We can talk about that another time. But right now, I'm frustrated. They just blew a wide open opportunity, not only to make a Super Bowl, but I think to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. That's frustrating. There's teams that have lost in the Super Bowl, lost in the NFC Championship game, and they've never came back. Like, and I'm not trying to scare people, but that's a reality of this game. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I'm frustrated. Is it all Dan's fault? No. But I certainly think with 4 minutes left to go, you have to take that field goal. You just have
that one too. Yeah, I guess I
that
didn't even
one. For me, that's the big one. Like to me, that's the big one. Like you got to take the points there. That's where I'll end it on. You got to at least give Badgley a chance.
I didn't even both of those decisions when you break them down, like that second one. We talked about it yesterday after leaving Ford Field. Was like, dude, you just like you have to give yourself a chance. If you can make it a 1-possession game when you're down 10, you have to do it. Whether he misses it or not, like you have to do it, especially when you're already in field goal range, and then give your offense a chance to to come back with that. That's a massive one as well. Yeah.
And
the one thing Chad Fletcher, the Booner path is not going anywhere.
The one thing I do kind of want to say,
going to be around for a couple of years. Get used to it.
The one thing I do kind of want to say to Jeff's point, I'm not trying to be like, ooh, kumbaya and all that, but if you go and you look at the teams who have made it to the NFC Championship, the Super Bowl, etc., a lot of those years, we talk about the Falcons. Those were like the contract years. That was in Matt Ryan's contract year. Those are in all the years where the guys are pretty much giving it their all, and this is the one shot to do it. The Lions, and I said it multiple times, that's why this game is so frustrating, but I'm not walking out like this, that was it. The 49ers are at their peak. The Detroit Lions are young. Their financial situation is perfect.
Go through the draft
in the top 3 rounds. So that I just don't want people to get that like, oh, NFC Championship, we're not making it back. I know that's not what you're saying, Jeff, but if there is a team who is built like the teams who are constantly in the NFC Championship games and the AFC Championship games, it's the Detroit Lions. They're built from that same type of foundation where they have the young core players in the trenches with the running backs, with the wide receivers, with their safeties, and they're going to fix the holes that they have right now. And if Brad Holmes is obviously going to do that. If we see it, Brad sees it. You need a corner, you need some interior defensive line, you need a guard, and you probably need another wide receiver and linebacker.
Brad's been so good in the draft the last 3 years that like he's gonna find the holes and build. Like that's why I am confident. Like this team's built through the draft. This isn't like a team that was put together like 1-year signings, free agents, like vet. Like no, this is like a young football team. And I mean, as young as this football team is, like let's look at the optimistic side. Like they just went to an NFC Championship game and probably should be playing in a Super Bowl with one of the youngest teams in football. So things are there. If you're a Lions fan, things are looking very, very bright for you compared to like what the Falcons were and some of the Jags, like these different teams in the past.
And just to bring up too, like look at some of your more impactful players. Sam Laporta, rookie. Jameer Gibbs, rookie. Brian Branch making plays, rookie. Jack Campbell, second on your team in tackles, rookie. J-Mo. Hey, by the way,
Two tutties, man.
I was gonna get there. I was just letting this kind of get there. 2 touchdowns from J-Mo on the biggest stage. I'll just leave that where it was. But regardless, another Brad Holmes draft pick, which he was starting to shine, which is great to see. And that touchdown catch wasn't a 40-yard bomb. That was a
flea flicker. And Jeff, you said it too. That flea flicker.
Gotta catch that.
If J-Mo catches that, that's another play where
gotta catch that.
They walk out of there with the W because it was a 3-point game. Lions go up. That'd be a 4-point difference. The Lions win that game. I'm not mad at it because it's a difficult catch, but you talk about he kind of stopped run on his route. We talk all the time about can Goff hit J-Mo deep? That was a perfect ball.
And
that was a perfect ball against Ambry Thomas.
Slowed up.
Everything you wanted.
It is
First who?
Catch. That's
First who?
Ambry Thomas.
There we go.
Yeah, barbecue chicken.
Yeah, he wasn't. Josh could have had it multiple times. He cooked Ambry Thomas multiple times.
And by the way, shout out to Mr. Detroit. By the way, that's my guy. Him saying that was the best ball Goff threw in a Lions uniform. That ball was perfect.
A spiral,
right
for like 50 yards.
J-Mo he couldn't track it, but that was a dime. But again, and here's Coach Walk chiming. You guys don't understand. I was 19 years old when the Lions last played in the NFC Championship game. I thought they would make it every year. 32 years later, people my age aren't taking this for granted.
That's fine, but
they
didn't have Brad Holmes. They didn't have this amount of talented players on a rookie contract. Detroit was not a desirable culture to be played with. Like, think about the head coaches during those days. They did not build the culture that the Lions have. If veterans want to go ring chase right now, they will look at Detroit. They were not looking at Detroit back then.
And on top of that, guess what? Detroit has money to spend. Like that, like they have money to go out there and spend. They have one of the top 5, I think, available cap, I think, going into the offseason, as well as Brad Holmes in the draft. What has he done? He keeps going 3 for 3 right now. He hasn't missed on a draft class yet. I don't see him missing anytime soon. And they just keep bringing their guys. And you know what helps bring guys in and then be effective right away is when you have a culture that's already built, and a culture like they have, and guys in there that have built that, and like a guy like Penei Sewell who's going to make guys lock in, and Anzalone. Like, once guys come in, they're going to be just fine.
I want to show you this, guys, this tweet, because I know this is like, people are going to accuse me of being negative, but this is why I'm pissed. Like, this tweet specifically, okay? And it's not the person that tweeted it, but it's just the information, because I hate when true information gets put in front of me. I just hate looking at it. Like, look at this. Look at this. Okay. Don't sweat. This is Justin Spiro, by the way. He tweeted this out. It says, and I'll read it from the top here. Don't sweat that all-time crushing loss on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. We'll be back and finish the job next time. Sincerely, the 2007 Chargers, the 2009 Jets, the 2009 Vikings, 2010 Jets, 2010 Bears, 2014 Colts, 2015 Cardinals, 2017 Jaguars. Remember that? AFC, they lost by, I think, 4 in that game. 2017 Vikings, 2019 Titans, 2020 Bills, and 2020 Packers. Like, that's
pull that list back up. That sucks, but that literally falls. 2007 Chargers, extremely cap heavy. They were an extremely talented team. 2009 Jets, they had a rookie quarterback. It's surrounded by
baby,
out of their prime. 2009 Vikings, who was their quarterback? Definitely not as good as Jared Goff, and we're definitely a lot older. 2010 Jets, you can make the same argument for the 2009 Jets. 2010 Bears, who was their quarterback? Oh yeah, I don't know. That was an old roster too. 2014 Colts had Peyton Manning. If Peyton Manning was still in a Colts uniform when he was in the Denver Broncos uniform, they're going to be at another Super Bowl. The 2015 Cardinals with Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, and that old roster, go ahead. 2017 Jaguars with Blake Bortles and a defense who they signed during that offseason and relied on. Then they all started leaving. Yeah, go ahead. Lions players aren't leaving anytime soon. 2017 Vikings were an absolute fraud who got exposed in the NFC Championship. And when you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback with a poor offensive line and a mid-defense, that happens. 2019 Titans, Ryan Tannehill. You're going to act like the Lions have Ryan Tannehill, and then they go ahead and they trade A.J. Brown. Lions aren't going to do that. 2020 Bills, I'll give them that, but you go up against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, that normally happens. They were on their way to get another one. Joe Burrow's there. I'm sorry, there's not a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes in the NFC. And 2020 Packers, that's playoff Matt LaFleur for you when you have the fucking San Francisco 49ers putting up more points on their special teams unit than the Green Bay's offense. None of these teams fit in the formula with the Detroit Lions whatsoever. Yes, it sucks that the 2024 Lions could be in this conversation, but they're not going to be when time goes on. I'm sorry, they're just not. So if you want to, let's add the context around those tweets. Yes, that sounds like a good tweet to put out, but now let's add the context around those teams and how they were built, and let's have a conversation then.
By the way, Lukas Klotz, that's why they call him the ball knower. That man just
broke
straight
that
up
whole
broke
list
down
down.
every team on that list. Okay, let him cook,
Let him
actually.
cook.
Yo, what? Okay. Yo, that shit was impressive. Yo, keep the tie on. That's impressive.
Tighten it up a little.
Yo,
Tighten it up a
dude,
little.
Lukas, that shit was
There we
actually,
go.
that's impressive. I can't fucking lie. Because I brought that up like, hey, you know, look at Chef Boyardee, man. That's
Hey, it is a little different too, though. Like earlier this year, I mean, a lot of us, at least I did, I compared this team to kind of how they're building, like the 49ers built their team, like they have young talent. Like this is what, like, you could have that whole list of teams all you want. This is the way that this is being built is considered like, let's get the list of teams that have been built through the draft and the way they have. So I'm with Lukas on that, except Lukas just went nuts though.
Yeah, he just let Klotz cook.
It just fought like those are the people that are driving me nuts right now, because those are the same people that are like, this was the Lions' one and only chance. It was the first time they got there and the only time they'll be back, because look at the Lions' history over the whole course of their franchise. I'm sorry. Let's look at the Lions' course of history over the last 3 seasons and look how it has gotten significantly better and better.
Night and day difference.
But you know what? Since they got better in their 3rd year, in their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th year under Brad Holmes, they're only going to get worse, because that makes sense, right? You look at all the statistics, all the data, all the roster build, and now they're going to get worse. That's just the case. That's how it is, guys. Sucks. The only time they're going to be here.
You know what gives me hope is the fact that the Lions have some of the, if you look at the top cap space for this offseason, Lions are up there. So and you look at the teams that are left in the playoffs, they're not up there. So the Lions had success with rookies on rookie deals and guys still on their rookie contracts. Yes, you have to re-up Goff. Yes, you're going to have to re-up some guys. But the fact that they made it this far and Brad Holmes is going to have another draft. By the way, we're going to scout every damn corner on this channel. We're going to know every single corner in the draft and
there's one in the 419 just waiting.
We're getting in the lab, because like that.
Are you talking about yourself, Lukas?
No, oh god, I forget his name. There's a corner from Toledo that's projected like top 20. I can't think of his name though.
He plays at Toledo.
Yeah,
top 20. Wow, Mr. Detroit, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
He is.
Really though, since we're talking about corners, and I want to hear what you guys think about this, because I already kind of talked about it. I would much rather sign like a veteran corner in free agency, like a Stephon Gilmore. Draft first 2 rounds of offensive defensive line, and then draft like a corner later on, because I do not want to wait on a corner that makes rookie mistakes when you're in win now mode. I don't.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I don't think in the first round. How many times do you find a just absolute stud at cornerback at the back end of the first round?
I don't hate that. I don't hate that thought,
more in the mid rounds.
I don't hate that thought.
Typically corners like a Stingley, a Sauce Gardner, these guys, maybe even a Jeff Okudah. I'm just kidding.
Especially, if you're later.
Put Jeff Okudah in that equation. But those guys that you take at the top of the draft are they're elite if you're taking a guy. Now, back end of the draft, it is tough. I like this name, which I doubt Kansas City even lets him go, but Snead. We talked about him a lot. Like, if you're going to get a veteran corner that has playoff experience, that you're spot on. That's what this team needs bad. Like, even Mikey.
That's your boy.
He's a dog too.
Bring him home.
Kirby put out a tweet about him too. That's who Kirby was.
I saw that.
Or even Klotz's proposal to Jair, trying to get
that wouldn't happen from Green Bay. That's not a Brad guy. I hope so. I hope that would be a dream situation if the Lions could get Jair Alexander, because realistically that would move Cam Sutton to like corner 3.
Hey, there's
Brian Branch. Yep, Quinyon Mitchell. Yeah. Mitchell's a stud. Mitchell. He had like 6 pick sixes last year, some crazy shit like that. But he's been first team All-American the last 2 seasons. In the MAC, he's an All-American.
He's top 20 projected.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out of the MAC.
Might be outside in some mock drafts, but I've seen multiple times where the Lions have I've seen one where the Lions traded up to get him.
Really?
Yeah. The kids, remember when I said on the morning show, Jeff, Toledo sometimes just get those athletic freaks from South Florida the Deontay Johnsons of the world,
Yeah.
bro. That right there.
You said that. You said that.
He's
Now
one of
people are chiming in here.
Jalen
Johnson, a free
That's
agent.
a
He's
good
going to
one.
want a bag.
They're going to
Record
give it
breaker.
to him.
And they're
You think
Bears.
he's
They're
Chicago?
so young. They're so young.
Yeah, I
They're
think
gonna
the
have to-
Bears. The Bears are, I believe, if you talk about total cap space estimated, at least according to Spotrac, they are 9th. The Lions are 7th, so they got money too. They're gonna.
Hey,
I would assume they re-sign
Coach
Jalen
Wall,
Johnson.
that question there, re-signing Mosley. I think he re-signed Mosley. I know he's coming off another injury, but like that's very, very cheap.
Give him another prove it deal. Like give him another 1 year.
Very cheap, very, very cheap. And if he's back and healthy, that's a dude, man.
At the minimum, it's veteran experience to help out guys that you bring into the secondary.
And I want to say this too, real quick, because we talked about the mistake. I mean, obviously, Josh Reynolds 2 big drops. I still want him back in Detroit. Obviously,
Yes,
like,
I saw some people already saying like, no, Josh Reynolds.
Yeah,
no,
that's idiotic. Like
he's been very reliable.
Yeah,
I still think add another wide receiver to the room, though. That's not like an Antoine Green type of guy, because if injuries happen, there's just I just think that you need to have a safety blanket. Like in wide receivers, you can't get enough of them. The more wide receivers and weapons you have around Jared Goff, the better.
I'll tell you one thing. If talk about wide receiver 2, that man, that was a confidence. That was a confidence booster for a man who needed a confidence.
2 touchdowns in a conference championship game.
I mean, Ford Field, like in Booner, when he had the rushing touchdown where he's like stumbling and stayed upright and scored, that place, like you couldn't hear a thing.
Erupted. I was in line getting a drink, and someone in front of me was like, I've been to games. I was at every single game this year with the playoff games and everything. And he said when that touchdown happened, he said it was just as loud as a game was actually going on there. And there was like upper level was people there weren't there, and it just like it. I bet you the decibels were pretty high. I bet you the decibels were like higher than the Panthers had all year, and that was a watch party.
Look at Lloyd. Go get Gabe Davis.
Nah,
Gabe's he's gone. He's not going to be in Buffalo.
The Buffalo.
Go get Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, dude, the catch he made.
Dude, I told you. An annoying third down catch by Juwan Jennings is going to happen in this game.
You said it on this channel. We had a live stream. You said there'll be one random third down catch. And of course, it's not just a third down catch. It was like, it was unbelievable. Like that was one-handed too.
I thought that was a pick.
Juwan Jennings.
That's when I was like, oh shit.
Speaking of picks,
the formula for them was adding up.
Hey, speaking of picks, it wasn't just Kindle Vildor. And by the way, if you would have picked that ball, by the way, if you would have picked that ball, they still would have called the PI, right? Because that was,
I mean, they waved it off.
No, because the reason they picked it up is because he was trying to make a play on the ball. Like if he would have, if he would have caught the ball, they wouldn't have been. That's what. Well, at least that's what it seemed like. Maybe if the Lions catch it, that's when they do throw the
flag. Hey, what
about
because Cam Sutton, he dropped one too.
Shout out Rodrigo. First, we haven't even talked about Rodrigo. Shout out Rodrigo.
What a play! And made a hell of an open field tackle on McCaffrey.
Rodrigo. He was big yesterday, man. So I mean, Flannel used to hate on him all year long, and Rodrigo, he's just been sitting on the bench and he's just like waiting for his time.
This is why I when you talk about players that are role players, like in that game specifically, your role players were stepping up to make the biggest plays of the entire game. So like that's why I don't. Like Rodrigo, for example, like you get injuries, Derek Barrs goes down, Rodrigo steps right up and gets an interception. Like guys, when they're called upon, like they stepped up. That's why I don't crap on random
Mr. Detroit's comment. Josh Pascal made that happen for Rodrigo. Yeah, and he made a big play on Debo when they tried doing the end around almost to like JMO where they contained him, pushed him inside, and Debo went nowhere. He showed up.
Hey, Pascal, shout out Josh Pascal. The last few games, I'll say this, Jeff, that's your guy, right?
Yeah,
I've been.
He's a guy I don't hate to be like a little secondary defensive lineman. I will say this though.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember a couple months ago? I think it might have been on a pregame show that I brought up, and I said, "This Detroit Lions team, we've hated this pass rush, right? A lot of those guys are out of the building this year. That is a lot of open cap space as well. That you're going to see a whole new defensive line next year. Not a whole new, but you're going to see a little bit of a revamp. That's a part where Brad Holmes is about to go cook, I think. And he's going to get Aiden Hutchinson something nice on that line with James Houston. James Houston yesterday, you
almost
saw him
almost had a roughing the passer call that scared the shit
out
of me. I thought they were going to throw the flag when I saw that.
He let Brock Purdy know who he was there.
He did.
So I'm excited for that. I did
Hey.
see someone in there. What?
Ali McNeil too.
Aleem.
They
Mac,
they
man.
just
Let's
need
go.
they don't even need it. They just need a big body.
Yeah, they do.
Grover Stewart from the Colts.
Yeah,
That's what they need.
And you know
They
what?
just need a
Who
big
knows?
body to free up Aleem.
Who
Hey,
knows? Who knows with Broderick Martin? You know,
Jeff,
if he takes the next step, like I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is.
You're not wrong, but I just think
I don't
with
know
the
what he
Lions,
is.
I think Lions and you guys. I want to hear what you say. Lions next year Super Bowl or bust, in my opinion, without a doubt. I think going forward. So
I said that's where the Booner path started. Was
you
in the
made
next
the
4 or
NFC
5
Championship
years,
game,
you
you
have
should
to
have
get a
won
Super Bowl. Yeah, I think the next 4 or 5 years, every Lions fans, we should also have that confidence. I've been saying this for a while. You should have that confidence like a lot of these like 49ers fans have. And I know the Patriots, they won all those Super Bowls, but like them, like be cocky a little bit, man. Like you have a good football team and an organization now. Be a little cocky. Like go to other fan bases and let them know we're here now. Like that's how it should be going forward for this team and this organization and as a fan base. Like you should be cocky. You should be confident going into this offseason and going into next year that this team's going to make some noise. This is going to be one of the best teams in football for years to come now. So I did see a comment too I wanted to address. Someone, I can't remember who it was, asked if Frank Ragnow will retire. I don't think he's going to. Personally, I don't think he will.
there's
I
a
think
chance though.
I think at the end of his contract, he's done.
Yeah.
There's a chance for sure he does because obviously he doesn't practice much and stuff. I still think he could go through, and he's just going to have to go through the rest of his career, like limited practices all the time and things like that. I think his contract has 2 or 3, I think 2 more years left.
Yeah,
Could be wrong.
You'd have to think too, like Frank
think
and Taylor and those guys, like on the brink of a Super Bowl
Yeah.
appearance. Like they're like these guys. You see Panay.
That's that.
Panay is ready to go.
Kill a man next year.
Oh my gosh, can
He's
he
gonna
get
Miles
any
Garrett
better?
somebody week 1.
Well,
Can he get any better? Like
I don't know.
this is going to be crazy to see a Panay. Like he's going to be he's going to be great, dude.
He almost buys into all the people that are hating on the Lions right now, saying like that shit doesn't matter. Like this season meant nothing if you didn't win it. Where people are like, you might not ever get back. He's buying into it. He's like, shit don't matter. They're like, what is it like to get to the NFC Championship game, to rewrite the history for the Detroit Lions? What is it like? He's like, that shit doesn't matter. He's ready, man. He's locked the fuck in.
He's a dog.
That's why I'm in Ross St. Brown. Same type of thing. Jahmyr Gibbs. Think about the talent that he has. He fumbled in that game, and that ultimately made a huge factor into them losing. He's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. Sam Laporta, there's multiple times where you could just tell he's kind of playing through that game hurt. He has a chip on his shoulder because in his head, he's like, if I'm healthy, we might win that game. You can say Hutch. Was Hutch really anywhere last night? I know he made a couple impacts, but he didn't have a sack.
He had a couple pass deflections.
Hutch had a bad game.
And I'm not saying, but
Hutch
he didn't have the Hutch impact that he has been having through the playoffs.
No.
And he wasn't on Trent Williams every snap. So Hutch is pissed off. Brian Brett, all
Revenge
the guys,
Stewart.
all the core pieces, man, these guys are pissed off. That's why, and they're young. So they realize, okay, I can't do anything about it. It's time to learn. It's not where they're veterans. They're like, this is all I've got. What can I do differently? No, they're like, I'm 23. These guys are our age, Jeff Booner. These guys are our fucking age. They're going to get better.
Yeah, and
they got a little motivation, kind of like the boys.
Yeah,
man.
You see Laporta too. Like you started seeing like a little side of guys that you never really saw. Like Laporta when Drake Greenlaw like separated his shoulder and Sam Laporta stood up and was like flexing on him. I'm like, oh my god! Like who would have thought Sam Laporta would be like kind of flexing on Drake Greenlaw?
Hey, don't forget he's a second team All Pro tight end.
And
he went up and guess what? Who it was in that game yesterday? It was the first team All Pro tight end and second team All Pro tight end. Guess who had a better game?
They kept him quiet. They kept him quiet in that first half.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like,
it's not even a shot at DPJ, but like Chase Young looked pretty good last night.
We were never trading for Chase Young.
But
we were never trading for Chase. Don't do that to me. Don't do that.
It is what it is. Like the Philadelphia Eagles traded for numerous players. I think the Niners are in that game with or without Chase Young. I really do. Against the Packers, he had somewhat of an impact, but there's a lot of players that you could point to. It's not like Chase Young revitalized the 49ers defense. In the last month, their defensive line fell off. So you can say, he made timely plays, but they're still in that situation without Chase Young.
Just to answer this, are y'all dropping episodes daily? Yes, we will be live every single day, weekdays, weekdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. This was more of a reaction based off last night's game. We'll be having videos drop daily as well. We're aiming for 2 a day. This is our live stream. Today's a little off, but starting tomorrow will be 10 a.m. We'll have a video. 4 p.m. we'll have a video, and then we'll go live at 8 p.m. That's the
I believe
schedule.
we will be live tonight as well, correct?
Yes, we will.
Yeah,
8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll have our
Just wanna make sure.
normal program show. This was more just like we need to get some thoughts out, and I want to hear from the people too, because
I think this show was really good. I was very frustrated going into this. Like I didn't want to talk to you all morning, and got into here, and I let some frustration out to some people in the chat. And you
guys, it's
and now
overreaction Monday. It's
I'm good now.
overreaction Monday. We
I like doing
overreact.
this show before the 8 p.m. show.
Yeah.
Now 8 p.m. I can be nice and free and clear. My mind is. I can take a couple hours off and
Like
when I'm-
tonight.
Lunchtime therapy.
There you go. You know what? I like that, Klotz.
Well, we'll have emergency meetings.
Oh, look at Joe Westfall. He says, "Thank you, Booner. Sorry, I got mad earlier."
It's all right, Joe. Joe, I figured going into this, I didn't really want to talk to anyone today, and this helped. Now I can move forward. 8 p.m. Boone, myself, I'll be back. Yes, Coach Walk, we are venting.
Yeah, Mr. Detroit, free therapy. This is
It was a frustrating session.
Jesse Adams, we know Sam Flannel was like, "Damn, JMO went off." Yeah, and then Rodrigo went off. So it was the worst. He says, "Shut up, Joe." Just kidding. Standing on business.
I want to say this too. So we had our seats at Ford Field, and instantly, like I was sitting next to Jeff and the whole crew there. Instantly, I was standing up, yelling, like I was like, I have to. You guys see me at the watch parties. Like I can't be around 1,000 fans, and they're probably like, "Who is this guy? Like, why is he wild?" So I went up and stood up at the top, and there was like an usher or like the people who worked there, some like older lady. And I went into like the little section, and she was like, "You could stand right here." And it was like where the handicap and there's the seats. And me and her just watched the game together, like screaming with each other. And it was just like me and this usher. And there was other people around, like some kids and stuff, but it was just like me and her. And every time a big play, I would turn over to her, like screaming. I was running around. I dropped my phone. I ran on the concourse after I think one of the touchdowns, the Gibbs one, and my phone, I lost it. And some random dude was like, 5 minutes later, was like, "Is this yours?" So
yeah,
it was a good time. I did
Booner
enjoy it.
Booner was kissing babies like he was a mayor.
That was the first time I went out since the Booner Path and the Kool-Aid videos. I will say I appreciate it. If you're watching and you came out, like I was shocked. I was like, people were coming up to me like, "Are you the Kool-Aid guy? Are you the Kool-Aid guy?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, "Can I get a picture?" And I was like, "I've never had someone ask me for a picture in my life." Like there was a little kid that came up to me and was like, "Is this you?" And it was the Amon-Ra St. Brown post. And I'm like, "Yeah, that was me."
Oh yeah,
that's a flex though.
So it was cool. That was the first time I've been out and about since all of this stuff, and a lot of people have seen the Kool-Aid videos confirmed.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
shout out to people.
It's your world, Booner. We're just living in it.
Hey, New Hollywood. You got a new Hollywood.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that one's staying with
People's champ.
Jeff doesn't want to give that up.
The people's champ.
I already copyrighted it. No, I'm just kidding. You can have Booner. You can have People's Champ. You can have all that.
I'll take the people's champ. I love the people. Even if I argue with them, I love them.
All right, you know what? We'll get out of here. We're kind of over, but this is what's fun about this. All right, because we could just chop it up and it goes over. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to our venting session, your guys' venting session as well. We'll be back live 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight, so come back for that.
Appreciate you guys.
We'll have a video posted today at 4 o'clock as well. So content all day throughout the day. Booner, Lukas Klotz, Jeff Iafrate, Crunch Time with Jeff Iafrate and Booner. We'll catch you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Go Lions.
Love you guys.